Howdy folks, and welcome back. Last we left Constantine, she was in Morthal after an incredibly long trek doing college business, and then finding herself in ruins, dungeons, and somehow, of all things, running into a dragon. We pick up where we last left off in the Morthal Inn.
Make it quick.
Having left the inn, she finds herself getting another ride back to the college. With all her other immediate responsibilities taken care of, she should probably, maybe, go and return those books to Urag. She kind of forgot she even had them after dealing with an actual dragon, but, you know, she does what she needs to.
Climbing back and we'll be off.
The slayer of the Glenmoril witches. How can I assist you, companion?
It's just Constantine, not companion,
You ever met
please.
one of them cats? Khajiit, I think they called themselves.
Heading back to the college, and she's glad to be back, but man, you'd think an entire building full of mages would somehow know how to heat a courtyard, but nope, none of that. She does enter into the main area and notices a bunch of the teachers all staring at the large orb. They look sort of entranced by it, and she doesn't like the look of hunger in a couple of their eyes. Thankfully, Mirabelle isn't one of them, and she's able to rip the others away. Constantine thought about stopping Urag, but she wanted to speak with Tolfdir first. Urag can wait. Tolfdir does appear to have noticed Constantine's continued ability and appreciation for alteration magic. And while he has no specific lessons left to teach her, he does have an interesting research request for her.
I think perhaps you could help. I need dragon scales, and not just any dragon scales. As I've said,
Old man, you even know what you're asking? She may have just killed the last dragon in existence. She didn't even know that dragons were still alive until a few days ago. You seriously think that she's going to be able to find a special dragon scale from an alive dragon?
What little I could learn, they may be what I need.
Alright, fine, sure, she'll see what she can do.
Avozine's fang, said to be sharp enough to carve individual scales off a dragon. First, you'll need to retrieve the dagger, then use it to carve.
Guess she's
a few
going dungeon
scales
diving
off the
again.
dragon.
At least she'll be able to grab what should be a pretty unique knife for the museum.
That would be wonderful. I'll be sure and have everything ready. This is exciting, isn't it?
Sure, Tolfdir, but please don't go getting your hopes up. The chances of her running into a dragon are not high. With that incredibly strange request out of the way, she does end up looking through Tolfdir's stock of alteration spellbooks. She grabs a few, with the most interesting one being called Deep Storage, which seems to grant her some level of access to an infinite storage location. Feels more like a conjuration school magic thing, but she's not going to say no to it. Could be incredibly useful if it's just a larger pocket dimension where she can just store unnecessary things. Upon finishing her shopping trip, she heads back to her dorm, where she finishes up her studies on learning the Death Guard spell. She's trying to get better with conjuration, and now has finally understood the basic concept of forming and creating an ally to fight for her by pulling from the Plains of Oblivion. She is concerned a little bit about its power, though. It may turn into more of a meat shield than an actual ally. But with that, she is exhausted and heads to bed. After waking up and eating a quick breakfast, she heads for the teacher's lounge to go find and speak with Urag about the books that she had found. Well, found and stolen back are two different things, but yeah, she doesn't care. He mentions one in particular, Night of Tears, in which it talks about something buried beneath Sarthal. That is convenient. Nevertheless, though, she takes what she's learned to go back and speak with Tolfdir in the Hall of Elements and give him an update. Urag does pay her in a couple of books, and while she's very happy to have more knowledge and she can stick stuff in the museum library, she does also like gold, so that would have been nice. Finding Tolfdir in the hall, as expected, and he is just enamored by the orb, but not in the same power-hungry way she saw a few of the others. He asks her if she would be willing to indulge him in a little conversational research. Constantine is really starting to like Tolfdir and his company, and she absolutely agrees to listen to him.
Whatever this is, its beauty is like nothing I've ever seen before. If you'd allow me to indulge myself for a moment, I thought I might make a few observations. I'm sure you've already noticed the markings. They're quite unlike anything we've seen before. Eliad, Gwema, Daedric, not even Falmer. None of them are a match.
That little note Tolfdir makes about the lack of written knowledge is fascinating to Constantine. It doesn't even look like the writing she's seen on the walls with the glowing words. Whoever, or whatever, made this is old. Very, very old.
Archmage Aron is already hard at work, and hopefully we'll have more information soon.
I'm afraid I must.
And that's when we're interrupted by none other than the bootlicker himself, Ancano.
We're involved in serious...
Seems he wants to talk to her specifically.
Yes, I've no doubt of its gravity. This, however, is
Just kill him. God, she wants to put an arrow through his
I've
back.
never been interrupted like this before. The audacity. I suppose we'll continue this at some later time, when we can avoid interruptions.
I need you to come with me immediately.
Absolutely not. Tell me what's going on.
Really? Well, allow me to clarify the situation. I'd like to know why there's someone claiming to be from the Sijic Order here in the college. More importantly, I'd like to know why he's asking for you specifically. So we're going to go have a little chat with him and find out exactly what it is he wants. Technically, that is true, but I still report to the Aldmeri Dominion.
Yeah, what does this have to do with you being an advisor? Of course you still report to the Aldmeri Dominion. You're nothing but a spy, and not a good one. Also, petty squabbles? Just breathe, Constantine. Just breathe. It's not worth it. Yet. Reluctantly, she follows Ancano upstairs, where he makes his dumb, stupid demands about speaking with the monk. Yeah, Ancano, shut up.
Please do not be alarmed. I mean you no harm.
From college grounds.
And then the monk finds a way to literally
It
stop
is good to
time.
meet you in person.
Or throw us into some weird dimension like
I'd simply
before,
like to talk
where
to you.
only we can talk.
You've given us a chance
And
to
he
speak
has
privately.
quite a bit to
But
say.
I'm afraid I can't do this for long. We must be brief. The situation here at your college is of dire importance. An attempt to
Which, the
contact you
big
is
magic
the
orb or the
agreement.
shitty Thalmor High Elf who thinks he's a
I
god?
believe it is due to the very source of our concern. This object, the Eye of Magnus, as your people have taken to calling it.
Ah,
The energy
so the
coming
orb.
from it has prevented us from reaching you with the visions you have already seen. The longer it remains here, the more dangerous the situation becomes. And so I have come here personally to tell you it must be
You
dealt
did
with.
not need to do that. We are well aware of the issue
I'm
that
afraid
this
it's
orb
not
might
that
cause.
simple.
We've seen
You
some of
must
the looks
understand
on the
the
teachers'
Sijic Order
faces.
does not typically intervene directly in events. My presence here will be seen as an affront to some within the Order. As soon as we have finished, I will be leaving your college. I'm all too aware that my arrival has aroused suspicion, especially in Ancano, your Thalmor associate.
Not the right word. Go with
Nevertheless, my
future
order
target.
will not act directly. You must take it upon yourself to do so.
Okay, but how? It was a complete accident that we even found the orb, and you seem to know a lot.
Ancano's distaste for the Sijic Order. The Thalmor see our order as a threat because we have power, and we will not allow them to control us. I assure you that we mean you no harm.
Everyone says that before they mean you harm,
As
but
you may have learned,
you
this object, the Eye,
seem a
is
little
immensely
more legit.
powerful. The world is not ready for it. If it remains here, it will be misused. Indeed, many in the Order believe it has already. Rather, something will happen soon, something that cannot be avoided.
But what? You keep talking in prophecy, but you're not helping her. Honestly,
We
she
believe
might
that your
shoot you
efforts
next.
Should be directed towards dealing with the aftermath, but we cannot predict what that will be. I fear I have already overstepped the bounds of my order, but I will offer this. Seek out the Augur of Dunlane here in your college. His perception may be more coherent than ours.
Finally, some actual useful information she can work with. Good lord.
Something different.
And you're back to the prophecies. Okay.
I am unsure. He is somewhere within the college. Surely one of your colleagues must know his location. I am sorry I cannot provide you with further help, but this conversation requires a great deal of effort on my part. Now, I'm afraid I must leave you. We will continue to watch over you and guide you as best we can. It is within you to succeed. Never forget that.
A little frustrated with his speech, Constantine does have at least something to look for now. The Augur of Dunlane, whatever or whoever that is. The spell the monk put up, though, did seem to truly stop time, as we're back right as Ancano makes a note that we're here. The monk then expertly tries to move away, letting them know that this was a mistake and this isn't who we were looking for. Ancano, being the paranoid elf he is, immediately becomes aggressive, though not like it really helps him. Seems he's used to getting his way, so she does get a kick out of watching him flustered. She was going to go talk to the Archmage, but an orb on a dais catches her attention. She probably shouldn't touch it, but yeah, no, should not have touched it. Apparently she is, quote-unquote, unworthy of the orb. She heard the voices in her head say so. Alright, let's go ask the Archmage about the Augur of Dunlane. He's got to know something.
Last you a lifetime. Several if you're Has Tolfdir been telling stories again? I thought I made it quite clear that this was a subject inappropriate for conversation. Please, don't allow him to continue to discuss the subject.
That was not the response she was thinking she was going to get. Why is he seeming to be all of a sudden against this? It's not like she's hurting anybody, and he was very clear about how he expresses all forms of magic in conversation and blah, blah, blah. But all of a sudden, this is no? Okay. After a bit of enchanting, she finds Tolfdir in his room, and unlike the Archmage, he seems very happy to talk about the Augur. He says he is somewhere in the Midden, of which this is below the college someplace, but it's allegedly quite dangerous, so we do need to be careful.
So if you go down there, please do be careful.
What's ironic is that for a place that's considered quite dangerous, there's just a door to it, unlocked, mind you, in the teacher's area. So, really, I mean, how dangerous can it actually be? Inside the Midden isn't what she was expecting, but then again, she didn't really know what to expect. To her, it just looks like a really small crypt. No idea where she needs to go, mind you, but if this place is so hidden the way it is, there have got to be some interesting secrets to uncover. And she is going to uncover them. And boy oh boy, what secrets she finds. The first is a rather odd structure that is clearly Daedric in origin. If not for all the weird creepy candles, then for the actual Daedric rune on the pedestal. Now, according to the research book left on the table nearby, this is apparently called the Atronach Forge. Now, according to the author, this is a forge that allows you to summon different Atronachs using specific materials, thus the Atronach Forge title. But it makes note that it's missing something, and Constantine can see that there is a pedestal where something should be, but whatever it is, she's not sure. Now, she needs to learn more about magic in general to figure out how much farther she can push the forge, but she's betting there's more to it than just being able to summon flame Atronachs. Also, she found some cheese. Not sure what it is, but it does not look like something she should be consuming, and while she is one to consume most things for the sake of learning, not so much this one. Alright, time to see if this forge is legit. Now, the research book said that all that needs to be done to summon a fire Atronach is put a flawless ruby and fire salt into the receptacle and then it's as simple as close her up and pull the lever. Constantine would be lying to herself if she said she wasn't at least a little bit skeptical. And yet, pulling the lever, there it is. A whole flame atronach created from a ruby and a fire salt. Huh. This is definitely some weird form of conjuration magic, and she's just not skilled enough to understand how that even works. Interesting to keep in mind, she's going to come back to this once she understands a little bit more. But for right now, it's time to continue the search for the augur. Or she would if she hadn't come across yet another room with a Daedric-like artifact in it. This time, it was a hand with the same Daedric rune in its palm. It's surrounded by skeletons and rugs, so there is clearly a ritual that was performed here. While looking around for any clue as to what may have occurred, she comes across a letter and a key. The letter is addressed to Savos Aren, though no date is actually given. It appears to be a letter describing a sword known as the Bipolar Blade that is being kept away for safekeeping. Now, if the letter's down here with the key, it means one of two things. Either the blade is here, or it's with Savos. Either way, she wants to find it and, relocate it to a better home. Constantine also finds a journal and another key. Now, the journal appears to be an investigative report about what potentially occurred down here. Seems some young mages were trying some sort of ritual, and it backfired, causing their deaths, which explains the bones, but why didn't they clean it up? Ugh. They were unable to remove the hand, but they were able to take the 5 rings off the statue's hand, and those rings have since been moved somewhere. But they left the key down here, so time to go ring hunting. Also, apparently, they left the bipolar blade down here, just chilling. So, well, that relocation was easy. Leaving the ritual area, she finally finds herself in front of the door to the augur, who won't let her in.
Still, you persist. Very well. You may enter.
Until he does. What? What she finds inside is conscious energy. Truly, that's the only way she can explain it to herself. But the augur, does appear to have some idea of what she's looking for.
Those who have sent you have not told you what they seek, what you seek.
Yes, the monks have been unhelpful.
You seek that which all who wield magic seek.
Power?
Knowledge.
Oh, knowledge, right.
You shall find this. Knowledge will corrupt. It will destroy. It will consume.
Yes, and the lack of knowledge does the exact same thing.
Shelter in knowledge. You will not find it. The Thalmor sought the same thing. And it shall lead to his end, as it has so many others. No, though you may be the last, the one who calls himself Ankano has sought my knowledge as well, through very different questions.
Was his having to do with power, control, and the desire to subjugate everyone that's not him?
Pushed towards something. It is a good path, one untraveled by many. It is a path that can save your college. I will tell you what you need to know to follow it further.
Finally.
You, and those aiding you, wish to know more about the Eye of Magnus. You wish to avoid the disaster of which you are not yet aware. To see through Magnus's eye without being blinded, you require his staff. Events now spiral quickly towards the inevitable center, so you must act with haste. Take this knowledge to your archmage.
Constantine is incredibly appreciative that the augur finally gave her some level of information that she can now actually use. With the information now obtained from the augur, Constantine returns to the archmage to see if he has any information regarding it.
I'm not really sure
And,
that any of us
as usual, he's got nothing. But he does point us towards Mirabelle, who came asking him about the staff not too long ago.
Specifically mention the staff of Magnus. I'm impressed with your initiative. Of course, someone will need to follow up on this.
Someone. What do you want me to do?
Impressive attitude. Keep this up, and you'll do quite well for yourself. Something as specific and ancient as the staff of Magnus. I'm not sure we'd ever find something like that. I seem to recall Mirabelle mentioning the staff somewhat recently. Why don't you see if she can tell you anything?
If there are any
Thankfully, Mirabelle is more straightforward than our
Well, now
boss.
that's an odd question. Why in the world would you be asking? I see. Well, yes, I suppose I did mention it, though I'm not sure what he expects me to tell you. I only brought it to his attention a few months back when the Synod showed up here looking for it. They were apparently under the impression we were keeping it in a closet somewhere. Mages based out of Cyrodiil. They fancy themselves the imperial authority on magic these last few hundred years. My understanding is that all they really do is make noise in an attempt to curry favor from the Emperor.
Oh, so they're just politicians who can wield magic. Alright.
I was quite
fair.
surprised to find them on our doorstep. They seemed amiable enough, but their line of questioning made me uneasy. It became clear they're trying to hoard powerful artifacts, looking to consolidate power. No one here does. The Synod seemed convinced it was somewhere in Skyrim. They inquired about the ruins of Mzulft, but that's all I remember. It sounded like they were heading there, though they were rather secretive about why. I suppose if you're intent on looking for the staff, there's a chance they might
So
be in
Constantine's
Mzulft.
next goal will be the
Just
ruins
don't
of
expect them
Mzulft,
to be
which
cooperative.
appears to be a Dwemer ruin. Now, this isn't too bad, because even if she doesn't find anything of use, there's usually quite a bit of dwarven metal down there, which she can smelt down to the dwarven ingots and sell back to Yorlin. Constantine realizes she's never actually heard of the ruins of Mzulft before and checks her map. It appears that the ruins are somewhere in the Rift, so she'll need to take a carriage from Winterhold to Riften. From there, it looks like it'll just be a straight walk north. After a quick sleep and meal in the tavern, she heads out towards the carriage to hitch a ride to Riften. Arriving in Riften, and she is quickly off to her objective, but she is awed by the colors around her. In Winterhold, everything's just white with snow, but farther south, what a beautiful color palette. She is in awe. While heading towards Mzulft, she came across a pretty random cage in the middle of the forest. Nothing was inside, although there was a dead animal nearby, so who knows. She opened the cage, more out of random curiosity than anything else, and she was then immediately attacked by the trappers who laid it. She killed them, swiftly, because you don't bear arms at Constantine and live. But she did kind of wish she had taken the second to ask why they were attacking her before slaughtering them. It didn't really make much sense, as she hadn't stolen anything or done anything, but hey, you know what? Free loot. As day turned to night, she found herself near an old ruin with a campfire. As she approached, she noticed a robed mage, and as she got closer, he attempted to intimidate her by drawing his dagger. That pointy little piece of metal was not going to scare her, and a fight quickly commenced. But to call it an even fight would be an insult to Constantine's skill. She continues to be unsure why her foes don't just die when shot with an arrow like that. Maybe she's somehow missing, or they have a protective barrier, or something. She really doesn't know. All she knows is that she's getting really annoyed and frustrated with it. Now, she could figure out Mzulft and deal with that old problem, or she could enter the mine. She chose the latter because who knew what treasures might be found below, plus a little side adventure was always fun. She realized very quickly this was not a mine, but a crypt, as she came face to face with a rather large draugr. But who was protecting this place and mining it out, she was unsure. Now, the rational explanation would be that the Draugr awakened and just killed all the miners, but there's something in Constantine's gut that's telling her that no, there's definitely somebody here. Her intuition was proven correct when she came across an individual sitting in a chair, clearly monitoring the work of a Draugr who was mining. A little fire helped speed the mage along to becoming a Draugr himself. As she let the mage burn, she just had to deal with the Draugr. The exact reason for why the mages were down here has not been made apparent to her, but they're clearly looking for something. Or worse, someone. Looks like another mage heard the scuffle and decided she wanted to join in on the fun. Or maybe this was the mage who she burned. Honestly, they all start to look the same to Constantine. Dead men walking.
Damn you!
It's been a while since she saw such fraternity amongst a band of random mages. They just keep coming out of the woodworks. Well, here's the problem. For them. Constantine's just better. Constantine is able to enter the crypt proper through a mined hole when she hears a voice speak to her.
Who are you to
And it's
disrupt my
none
work?
too friendly.
Be gone, or I will add you to my army of the dead.
With the introduction of this voice, Constantine assumes she's now dealing with a necromancer of sorts. Here's the fun thing about necromancers. They can bleed. And if they bleed, she could kill it. Nothing like stealth killing a few mages who are too stupid to pinpoint where they're being shot from. Either the necromancer is a novice, or she's hiding her real power, because the Draugr she awakened to attack her are pitiful creatures, hardly able to stand up. Honestly, their death is a mercy killing, nothing else. The ruins themselves were nothing special, but on a table in a far corner, she did find a journal, most likely by the one who's in charge. Now, the journal had exactly what Constantine thought she'd find, the reasoning for the tomb's desecration. Apparently, they're trying to raise the dead of a loved one who's been dead for 25 years. While Constantine can understand the loss and grief and desire to bring one's loved one back, 25 years is just... it's too long. It's time to let go. She traverses deeper and deeper into the ruins, being careful not to run into any of the many traps that had been laid for her. But she knows that she's getting closer to the heart of the crypt. She could just feel it. And boy, was she right. When she turns the corner, she sees two heavy wooden and steel doors. Upon opening it, she is correct. But, much to her surprise, the mage at the front doesn't notice her. This is good. Constantine is able to sneak in and hopefully get a clean shot off on her. And a clean shot she gets, but no sooner did the arrow land that Draugr started to come out of the crypts. Although it does seem that the mage is having a harder than normal time figuring out where Constantine was until it's, well, too late. In her dying breath, though, the mage is able to summon a bone behemoth of sorts. Constantine has never seen anything like this before, and why is it not dying with the death of its master? Why is it not dying? It also appears with her death, the souls she was using to awaken her dead husband are now trying to talk to Constantine. But, you know, if maybe you could just hold on, wait a second, there's a massive thing chasing after her. With the death of the bone behemoth, one last little skeleton attempted to make itself known, only to meet the business end of an arrow. This wasn't all for nothing, though. The spirits bestowed upon Constantine the Ghost Blade, an interesting and ethereal blade that, while she definitely wasn't going to actually use it in combat, would look absolutely amazing in the museum. While walking back to the mage's body, something in her grew sour. Why desecrate the dead of two lovers just to try to bring back your late husband, who, mind you, has been dead for 25 years? No. This called for a little extra payback. So Constantine did what she does best and burned the body, forever disgracing the mage. She did end up finding the living quarters and the letter sent to her by the Empire upon her husband's death. It seemed that he died honorably in combat, and without knowing the specifics, if the husband chose to be a soldier, well, that's his decision, and he should, of course, be aware of the dangers. Still, doesn't give his wife the right to try to resurrect him 25 years after the fact. Now, 5 years? Alright, Constantine can understand it a little bit. Having finally left the crypt, she still had a mission to finish, but it was very late, and she needed sleep. She unfurled her tent and fell asleep for the night, getting ready for whatever Mizulft had for her. Her dreams were not kind to her. Hircine came to her again, trying to bring her back into the fold of the beasts. She remembers how she felt while the beast blood coursed through her. No way was she ever going to go back to that. When she finally regained her sight, she was in snow. At first, she thought she was in a dream, but the cold of the weather was just too real for that to be the case. She was freezing, and there was nothing that she could do about it right now. She absolutely needed to find warmth. Her best bet would be Mizulft, and she had no desire to re-enter the crypt, so she packed up and headed out. The trek to Mizulft sucked. Every step was agony as her body ached and screamed at the cold. Winterhold was bad, but this was awful. Why was she freezing out here in the Rift of all places? Was this Hircine's fault? Just because she didn't take the drink in her dream? Or is this just a stroke of bad luck having slept through a blizzard? Probably the latter, but she's gonna blame the former. As she walks into Mizulft, the cold doesn't leave her body, but she does find the nearly dead body of what she assumes to be one of the Synod mages. In his last breath, he says a crystal is gone and to find someone in an oculory. He then dies. The journal on his body was a little bit more descriptive than his death wails, and it talks about a focusing crystal that needed to be hauled back to Cyrodiil for some mechanical reason, like it wasn't working. So, well, if she wants to find the Staff of Magnus, she needs to go to the oculory first and find this crystal. She wasn't sure what she was going to find inside. I mean, Dwarven Ruin, probably going to find some Dwemer constructs, but the first thing on her to-do list was to find fire. She was freezing, and she didn't really know how much longer she would be able to keep going if her bones would not move due to the cold. So she tries to set fire to a plant, and it doesn't work. Alright, so she needs to find a brazier first. Well, as expected, she found the Dwemer automatons, but weirder still, no braziers. So she's still freezing, which is great. Now the pipes are giving some semblance of warmth to start to help a little, but man, she is freezing. She knew she'd find the automatons, that, of course. What she wasn't expecting, though, was to find the ghosts or souls of the dead Dwemer. Now, whether they're trapped somehow or are also weird automatons, she doesn't know, but they do form into a little puddle of goo when she kills them. Continuing further into the ruins, she opens a door into what appears to be a natural cave. or at least something to resemble a cave. And yet, having been inside for so long, she's still freezing. She was going to kill everything she came across because it would get her body moving so she could feel some semblance of warmth. This cold could not be natural. She had a hard time figuring out how this cave came to be in the middle of a ruin. Maybe the ruin collapsed and the cave sort of just naturally formed, but what she saw upon turning the corner was a chorus reaper. Awful poison if they bite her, but it also signals that there's a high chance for the Falmer to be nearby. Great. She knew Falmer usually infested Old Dwemer ruins, but up until this point, she had assumed that the Synod mages from before, and many of the other bodies she'd seen, were killed by the Dwemer automatons. If it was Falmer, which is what it's looking more likely to be, she's gonna have a much more annoying fight on her hands. Finally, after traipsing through the ruins, she saw lit braziers, and with a quick lockpick, she was able to enter and finally warm herself up. Having warmed up and traipsing through the corridors, she comes across what she knew she would run into, but had no desire to. The corpse of a Falmer. Well, this solidifies the fact that the Falmer are here, and she should get ready for a fight with them. The ruin hasn't been anything spectacular or unique, but she has found her first live Falmer to take down. She hopes the oculary is soon and or closed because she's found nothing of real value and is admittedly pretty frustrated from the cold, and that she's now, in a way, just doing a weird errand for the Synod. As expected, a Falmer community was found within the bowels of the Dwemer ruin, and they are none too happy to have her traipsing through their territory. There was this building resentment within Constantine against the Falmer. It wasn't for anything particular, there was no reason for it. It was more just so with how mindlessly violent and stupid they are. She kills and slaughters them, and yet, for beasts, they don't seem to have the cognitive ability to cower before her like they should. As she descends deeper and deeper, that frustration, the single-minded Falmer seems to grow within, and now there is no stopping her arrows. She doesn't stop to line up shots or think about the implications of their death. All she wants is for the Falmer to fall so she can just move on. They are nothing but small, insignificant pests that should be eradicated. But through the haze of her growing hatred, she calms down. It's not the Falmer's fault they're like this. History was not kind to them as a species, and while they still must die, lest she be killed, she must temper that rage within her. The Falmer will die, but she is not going to seek their death for the sake of it. She kills for she must. With the calm overriding her body, she looks back at the destruction she caused on the Falmer population with a sense of sadness. She knows she killed an entire community of them within the bounds of this ruin, and she'll most likely have to do it again if she ever enters another Dwemer ruin, but she can't help but think if maybe magic or something else could give them their minds back. She lets the idea slip from her mind as she continues to explore the now quiet ruin. Or so she assumed. There was still yet one last automaton waiting for her, in vain, trying to protect something. It appears the last automaton was guarding nothing special, just doing its job as it was created for, protecting a storeroom. She saw no special stone that the now very dead Synod member had told her about, so she's gonna go back into the courtyard and see if maybe one of the Falmer have it on him. Huh, gods be damned, the Falmer actually had the crystal on it. Wasn't expecting that to work out for her. Crystal in hand, she walks up to a locked door and knocks. Surprisingly, there was a voice on the other end. Seems the Synod members aren't all dead yet. The man who opens the door seems skeptical to speak with Constantine, though he does appear smart enough to recognize that she was not the one who killed his colleague. This would have gotten bloody real quickly.
Everything. If Gavros is gone, there is no hope. He was supposed to return with the crystal. Without that, all our efforts are wasted. And you, if you're here for treasure or wisdom or anything, I'm afraid you've wasted your time. It didn't work the first time. I tried to tell Gavros, but he wouldn't listen. No, it won't be too cold, he said. Well, I was right, wasn't I? Focused completely wrong by the time we got here. The cold had warped it. Gavros had to cart it all the way back to Cyrodiil. Left the rest of us here to fend off the damnable Falmer.
Constantine flashes the crystal she found on the Falmer, and he seems to become much more amicable.
But you may have just saved this little project. In fact, who are you anyway? You are you? Savos wouldn't even grant us an audience when we came to you, but now you come here expecting something from me? I don't much.
Whatever your issue with Savos is, don't lump her in with him. She just saved your hide. At least you could do is thank her, lest she turn you into a pincushion.
No matter what Gavros said, this was my idea first. The council.
His friend's dead, he gets the crystal, and then immediately starts dumping on his friend. What a kind and upstanding individual this mage is.
I'm sure. From all our research, it seems they were intent on discerning the nature of the divine. This machinery, all of it, was designed to collect starlight, and then, I'm not sure, split it somehow? It was my idea to replace one of the key elements with our focusing crystal. Months of enchantments went into it. Let's just hope they got it right this time.
So this is a Dwemer construct that you replaced one of the very intricate parts with something you made in an attempt to do what? You still haven't explained what you're trying to do here. You certainly care little for the divine, so what's the end goal? Now, she admits this is a pretty interesting and massive looking construct, and she would love to research it more, but she's sort of on a timetable, and how is this supposed to help her find the Staff of Magnus? After some moderately useful inventory management, the mage again speaks with her, and he tells her to put the focusing crystal into the apparatus. And, upon doing so, a beam of light shoots down onto the crystal, which separates it into 3 different beams of light. Buttons then open up on 3 pedestals, which seems to move the discs on the ceiling. She assumes that each button moves one of 3 discs that she can clearly see were partitioned out. She then notices that the beams of light aren't quite where they should be, but sees no conventional means to move them. Well, that's when she gets a little bit of an idea. See, the mage had made commentary about the cold warping the crystal too much. So if she uses heat, and she was right, it suddenly warps the crystal so that the beams sort of move around. But still not where she needs it. So she uses some of her ice magic, and this seems to be more in line with what she's looking for. The issue being her current ice spell magic isn't working the way it should. It's only affecting the crystal once in a while. Annoyed, but not ready to give up, she sees a spell book on the desk for frostbite, Flame's colder cousin, Now, she's never studied it before, but she's got a good handle on destruction magic as a whole, so it shouldn't take her too long. Why the Synod Mage isn't helping or doing anything, she's not totally sure, but she remembers Mirabelle's commentary on the Synod being mostly politics, little magic, so who knows how much practical magic he actually knows. But as expected, Frostbite does the trick, and she's able to line up the lights properly. Then all she needs to do, assuming she's right, is hit the buttons so that the discs move and that the blue thing intersects with the light. She, again, wonders where the heck the mage is in all of this, but whatever. She's used to having to do other people's dirty work, and if he gets a little feisty, she'll kill him. She's not gonna say she's a genius, but she's implying it.
These results, they're not at all what they should be.
That's never something you want to hear from anybody, ever.
Projection should be lit up like the night sky. Something is creating an incredible amount of interference. Something in Winterhold, it looks like. What do you think? Is this some attempt to stall my work?
Don't raise your voice with her, boy. She will put you down.
So what is it? What have you done? Did you know what we were attempting? Are you here to make sure your plan worked? That our efforts have been for nothing? Well, explain yourself.
Her sword hand twitches, but not yet. Not yet. She doesn't even know what he's talking about, so she holds off at this point.
How did you do it? Either you're lying to me, or you have something at your college, don't you? Something immensely powerful, beyond anything I've anticipated. What is it?
He's annoyed, so rather than be helpful, she's just gonna keep poking and see what happens.
These results make more sense. Yes, the staff. Interesting. I can't explain the details. That would be giving away many secrets the Synod have learned over the years.
Ooh, look at you. You have secrets. So do we. You're not special.
The orrery in the Imperial City? It was the inspiration for this idea. Instead of projecting the sky, we project all of Tamriel, and then harness the latent energies to overlay the positions of... What's important is that all of this work was designed to reveal to us sources of great magical power. Purely to help safeguard the Empire, of course. And yet...
Sure. And she's the Queen of Skyrim.
One is your college. The other, well, that can only be Labyrinthian. So, mage from Winterhold.
Just Constantine works.
I've beaten your little game, even if all you've said here is lies. I know you have something in Winterhold the Synod Council will be very interested in.
Synod Council? Is that how it's pronounced? She's been doing Synod.
I shall return to Cyrodiil and deliver my full report to the Council. This is not over, I assure you.
Oh god, man, are you still talking? You gave me the information I needed. Your best bet right now is to just walk away.
Yes, certainly it is. But that doesn't matter now, because I know you're hoarding something even more important at your college. The Council will be informed of this. They will find out what you're up to. I think we're done.
No, they won't. You were a little too disrespectful, a little too long. As promised, she's gonna turn you into a pincushion. With him dead and her finally having a location to check out, Labyrinthian, she leaves and starts the trek to head back to the college. She wants to see if anyone there can give her any guidance on what Labyrinthian is or what the place might hold for her. This being the case, though, she's also very ready to sit down for a bit, especially after dealing with the Falmer and one particularly annoying mage, whose name she honestly doesn't remember or care to remember. As she heads towards Riften to catch a carriage to Whiterun, she had remembered hearing in a tavern in passing about a boy in Windhelm and the Dark Brotherhood. Here's the issue. She's never been to Windhelm, and the people she actually overheard it from didn't seem like the most reliable sources, let's say. They were just these two old ladies talking with each other. Neither of them looked like they were prior assassins, so she wasn't too sure about it. Now, it's still a rumor, and sometimes rumors can prove to be true, so she'll ask around, but she doesn't expect much of it. For right now, though, she needs to focus on securing the Staff of Magnus, assuming it's actually real. Having arrived in Whiterun and making it to the Bannered Mare to rest, she has some business in Whiterun to attend before she can actually make it back to the college. And this, folks, is where we're going to leave Constantine for now. I'd like to thank you all very much for watching and waiting for this to come out. I really do appreciate it. As always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Peace!
We've never had any reason to deal with those caravans of theirs.